What's up, guys? It's John Dominique, aka Prize Pictures. I want to talk today a little bit about my journey using MicroFourThirds. I started off photography actually using the Sony Nex system. I believe it was the Sony Nex F3 camera, and I had a kit lens, and I think I had one prime lens on that system as well. That's where I started off, and then I switched to Canon DSLRs for a long time, like the T3 and the T5 Rebels Canons, and I only used two lenses at that time. When I was using those cameras, I had like the equivalent of a 38 and equivalent of an 80 mil, and I learned how to shoot photography with those two lenses only. I switched to prime lenses. I did have some kit lenses, but I didn't really use them that much. I was more of a prime guy. So I learned to shoot with those two focal lengths, and I got really used to it. But eventually I did switch to MicroFourThirds, and I started with the EM10 camera, which is the smallest, the baby of the family in that system. And I was using some vintage lenses with that system, and I liked the fact that I had in-body stabilization, and I can use vintage glass with that pretty easily in that system. And I stuck with that for a while, and I enjoyed that camera a lot. I think my favorite one of those lenses I had was like a Takumar 55 millimeter f2. That was like my favorite of those vintage lenses that I had, and I had a little collection. Started to build a collection of little lenses, and I saw the power of those lenses. They were inexpensive and they looked fairly good. In my opinion, they gave me some kind of a character that some of the kit lenses didn't have. So I switched around to different other brands of lenses, like the Minoltas, the Canons, FDs, Minolta MDs and Minolta MCs, the Nikon F-mount, I believe, some Konica lenses, Vivitar, but they were always almost prime lenses. And I love prime lenses because of the quality you can get out of them. And it's not to say that the zoom lenses were bad, it's just I didn't use them that much. I did have a couple of old school big heavy zoom lenses, and just carrying them was kind of the thing about it. Like the weight factor to me didn't seem worth it in the long run with those vintage zoom lenses. So I kept sticking with primes and always stuck with primes, and I just got used to it, and that's the way I've always shot my pictures. And I don't know if you can tell that in my library, in my repertoire, if that's the case or not, but I've always stuck with prime lenses, and I've enjoyed them and I like them. And eventually I started to get into just the regular MicroFourThirds system. I got into MicroFourThirds because of the lenses, and also I liked the Canons because of the lens library as well. At that time they had like a good selection of Canon EF lenses and EFS lenses, but the system that had the best selection was the MicroFourThirds, because they had the biggest library of lenses. So that's part of the reason I switched, and part of the reason I switched was because the system is light and it's small, it's compact, it's fun, and it gives a lot of bang for the buck, a lot of features for the money. So my lens journey has been up and down. I've had a number of different lenses. I've had I'm going to list some of the lenses that I had. This Panasonic Leica 9mm f1.7, which is a really good lens. It's good at focusing close up to stuff, and then you can see a lot of the background if you get really close to an item, and you can incorporate a large background. So it was kind of a different style of shooting with that lens, and I guess it would be good for, I thought I was going to go into some real estate photography, but it didn't end up happening. So I didn't keep that lens, but I enjoyed it. And it's a compact lens and very light, and it has very good output for the price. Also had Panasonic Leica 25mm f1.4, which is not a focal length equivalent of 50 millimeters, not at a focal length that I was very much used to. I wasn't a huge fan of it, because when I was using the prime lenses on the EM10, it would actually end up being like 100 millimeters, because it's twice the focal length. But 50 millimeters was not something that I was used to. But when I got that Panasonic Leica 25 f1.4, I liked that focal length, and I enjoyed it for a while. But I sold it. I didn't really know what I had, and when I sold it, I missed it. I said, man, I got to get that lens back. I couldn't find it for the good price that I did the first time, but eventually I found another copy. So I had that lens twice, and I really enjoyed that focal length after a while. It had to grow on me, but the output of that lens was really good. It's hard to describe. It's got some sort of extra texture to it or something. And it's very smooth, and it was a good lens, but it was a little too big in the long run, and I want to keep my setup compact. So again, I sold it. I had that twice, and I sold it again. I don't have that lens in my collection anymore, in my library. The Panasonic 20mm f1.7, I had that lens once. It had good picture quality. It was very sharp, and I liked the focal length a lot. That's like one of my favorite focal lengths. The only problem with it is like the focus was hit and miss. It was slow. It felt sluggish on my Olympus cameras. It tends to feel like some of those Panasonic lenses, they feel like when you take a picture with them, they feel like sluggish or something. I don't know how to describe it, but I tend, the Panasonic lenses, they're good, but the Panasonic Leica lenses, like those focus really good. I don't have any problems with those lenses, but the regular Panasonic lenses, like the 20mm f1.7, I used that lens. I had it once, and it was good, but I didn't keep it eventually because I had a very similar focal length in my library of an Olympus lens, which is the Zuiko 17mm f1.8, which I prefer because it just feels snappier on the system, and it just works better in my opinion. The focus is better, and even though the Panasonic 20mm f1.7 has better image quality, image quality is not the most important thing to me. I think it was fairly similar to the 17 f1.8, so I didn't keep that lens, the 20mm f1.7, but I do have the Panasonic 14mm f2.5, and I did keep that lens. Actually, I had it twice. The first time I sold it, and then I knew I missed it because of the compact nature of it, and the quality is not that great, to be honest with you, but I used it as a substitute for a good lens for video, and that's kind of what I was keeping that lens around for. And I kind of enjoyed the 28mm focal length as well because, street photography, that's kind of my thing. It was my thing. It kind of still is a little bit, but it's a great focal length that I kind of miss, and I'm a little bit, what's the word I want to say, upset, or a little bit scratching my head about why there's not an equivalent 28mm prime lens in the Olympus OMD lineup in their lens library. And I'm wondering about that, and I wish they had a 28mm prime in the Olympus library. So that's why I keep the Panasonic 14 f2.5. The first time I had it, I had the Mark II version, and now the second time I have it is the Mark I version because I couldn't get a good price. So if I get a good deal on it, then I'm more likely to buy it. And I did buy it, and I've kept it around, and I keep it mounted to my Olympus EP3 camera a lot as like my everyday carry, like a point and shoot almost. So that's a good lens to have. I did try the Zuiko 75mm f1.8, and that was a good lens too. It had good sharp optical quality, but in the end that was a little too big as well, and I didn't get along that great with the focal length. It was good, but it just didn't seem to hit for me like some of the other lenses. The lenses that I keep, I know I'm going to keep on my vibe with them, and I just feel a connection with them. As I mentioned already, the Olympus 17 f1.8, that's a good lens. I keep that one around. I've had that one for a while. I sold it once, and I bought it again, and I've kept that around for a while. It's a staple in my collection, along with the 45mm f1.8. Those are both lenses that I keep in my library steady. Now, my lens library has flowed and ebbed. It's gotten smaller, and it's gotten bigger, and I've narrowed it down. Mostly I've kept those two lenses, as I've mentioned, 17mm f1.8 and the 45 f1.8. Those are my two main go-to lenses, and now I'm adding a couple more. The Panasonic 14 f2.5 as mentioned previously, and recently I just picked up the Olympus 60mm macro f2.8, and I'm enjoying that lens a lot. I've not had much experience shooting that lens yet, but just for my initial impressions, it's very good. I'm enjoying it, and I'm vibing with it, and I connect with it, and I can tell that it's a lens that I want to keep in my library permanently. I did also at one point have the Zuiko Pro 20mm f1.4, which was a great lens, very snappy, very good picture quality. I had to sell it because I had an issue with my car and I had to get my car fixed, so it was a money thing. I loved that lens. It was good. It was a little bit bigger, but it was light enough and it felt great on my EM1 Mark II camera. It was a great combination. I don't really care that much about weather sealing, but that's a good plus. And also lenses, I've tried a couple of kit lenses, the 40 to 150mm f4.5 to f5.6. I tried that one for a while. It was okay, but the picture quality wasn't the best for me, so I didn't keep that lens. I eventually sold it. Also had like the EZ kit lens, the 14 to 48 or something like that, f3.5 to 5.6. That's nice and compact. That was a good lens. I didn't mind it, but it wasn't my best lens. I used that one with the EM10. So I've experimented with a lot of different lenses and even some close-up filters because I wanted to try to do a little bit of macro. And before I got this 60mm macro, I was just using macro filters to see how that would work out for me, and it did work out a lot of fun with it. I used that filter with the EP3, and that actually was I came up with a lot of good pictures with that, and it was enjoyable, and it was small and compact. I could take it out wherever I go, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. And now that I got the macro lens, the real macro lens, I think that's gonna take the place of the close-up filters that I was using on the Panasonic 14 2.5 lens. So you know, again, I'm right now in my library, my lens library. That's my journey, and that's where I'm at. I've got 4 lenses overall total, which I think is a good number. I try to keep only the lenses that I'm going to use. Sometimes I'll just keep it for a few months or so and get rid of it if I'm not using it. So we'll just have to see how things work out and how they unfold. I will come back and update another video as far as how that 60mm macro lens is going and how I'm getting along with it, to give you guys an update to where I'm at in my lens library collection. So that's my journey with MicroFourThirds lenses, and I came for the lenses, and I'm still here for the lenses. And also, you know, there's still so many lenses that I haven't tried. If you have any comments, suggestions, ideas, recommendations on some lenses I should try, then let me know down in the comments. Let me know what your journey was like using MicroFourThirds and their lens library. And I suppose there's a system for everybody, because we all have different needs and different preferences, and MicroFourThirds to me has the best lens library and the best features and the most compactness. So it's got a good combination of things that I really like, and there's some downsides. You know, the smaller sensor isn't the best in low light and that type of thing, but you know, I make do with what I have, and I lean into the disadvantages, and I just do the best I can with what I have. And you know, this system, I know it's getting older and it's on its way out. It's probably going to be phased out, but this is the system that works for me until I find something better, until something else happens where I'll no longer be able to use this. I'm going to continue using MicroFourThirds for a long time. I really enjoy it. Let me guys know what you think. Leave comments, questions, suggestions. Like my video, subscribe to my channel. John Dominique, Prize Pictures. Peace.